Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports Plus, and here we are with our NFL Week 7 predictions and pick'em, continuing our season-long series discussing the NFL games of the week, and we're really excited for this week. Austin, let's not waste any time. Let's jump into our record. Make sure you guys leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more great content like this. And if anyone has a screenshot right now or any type of picture of Austin, if you guys could send me a Photoshop of him with a wizard hat on Twitter, that would be excellent because he has been the Pick'em Wizard, not just this year, not just last year, but even 3 years straight, and I expect it to never change.
Hold on, because we cannot go past last week where he gained traction on me. I want to point that out. He has narrowed the gap. So once again, I just don't want this because at the end of the year when Sheldon's winning it, I'm going to look stupid.
You guys heard it there from the wizard himself. There is a gap in Pick'em, and I am down 7 games. That's all I needed to hear. Austin's acknowledging the record for the first time all year. He's ahead 62-30. Just about as good as it gets. Listen, there's no undefeated NFL teams left at this point in the season. I'm just surprised Austin's not undefeated at this point of the year himself in his pick'em. Let's go ahead and jump forward into it. Let us know down in the comment section how your pick'em has been looking. We got a lot of bye week teams this week. Cincinnati goes on bye. We have the New York Jets going on bye. Obviously, a really good win for them this past week. They're on a 2-game win streak. Currently sitting at 3-3. The Texans get a bye here. That team has been playing better football as of late too. CJ Stroud's been looking great. They're 3-3. The Panthers 0-6. They definitely need a bye. Frank Reich and the Panthers looking for a win big and really badly at this point. Dallas, they are on bye after their Monday Night Football game. And then the Tennessee Titans are on bye as well. So a couple of AFC South teams and just a bunch of teams across the league, 6 of them to be exact. So let's jump forward now. If you are a fan of those teams, stick around, check out some of the other games this week. And here we are, Amazon Prime Thursday Night Football. Oh my gosh, Austin again picking his Jacksonville Jaguars. Can we get a hashtag Duval down in the comment section? The Jaguars go into New Orleans. But Austin, I like the way you're leaning here, picking your own Jaguars against the Saints. They're just the better football team, leading the AFC South. This is going to be what I would call a cakewalk. 2 South opponents, obviously one AFC, one NFC. I like the Jags big time in this one. Austin, why'd you go with the Jaguars?
Yeah, no, I don't know why you always say big time with these Jags because it just never ever appears to be that game. It's always a 1-score game when you say big time wins. But, I will say this, I don't trust New Orleans offense currently. Alvin Kamara coming back had helped. But, once again, I leaned with them and I get burned with them. So I'm struggling to find some consistency when I am picking New Orleans. Maybe it's recency bias or maybe it's just the fact of the matter that they have a lot of things to correct and clean up. So to me, I had some issues with this one in terms of really putting my trust in New Orleans. But to me, Jacksonville is the team to beat here. And I think, when you look at this offense, how effective it's been with Travis Etienne running the football, this is a dangerous club, especially the receiving core that they have currently. There's a lot of playmakers that can, create those big shots, those big plays, those home run type plays, and those explosives.
This is a big game for the Saints. If they win, they could push themselves up to 4-3 and give themselves a narrow edge in the NFC South potentially this week. Now, remember, if you are new here, we do pick money line, but if you're curious about against the spread numbers, just ask Austin. He's going to respond to some of those comments. He'll be seeing all of those comments. So ask down below if you want to see some against the spread numbers or kind of Austin's thoughts. The wizard, hey, he's from the future. That's part of being a wizard. He can time travel, so he knows what teams are going to cover and what teams won't. So just make sure to go ahead and ask him. Let's jump into Sunday, Austin, where we look at our Sunday slate of games. So what do we have this week? And it's a really fun one to start us off. The Detroit Lions head into Baltimore to take on the Ravens. And boy, oh boy, are the Lions playing some great football. They're plus 55 this year in point differential. They are 5-1, currently on a 4-game winning streak. And listen, Baltimore is no slouch either. The Ravens sit at 4-2 atop of the AFC North. But I think the Lions just have a different kind of swagger right now. Jared Goff's playing great football. Of course, the running game has been there and existent for the Lions this year. It's been very, very good, actually. I know fantasy owners aren't super happy about it if you drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, but look, they're getting the job done. They're winning football games. That's really all you can ask for on Sunday, and I expect them to continue that. What did you see in this matchup, Austin, that you liked?
I think when you look at what the Lions offer offensively, it's going to be a little bit too much. Baltimore's had some issues across the board at the receiving position. Just looking at those receivers that they have currently, there's drop issues. It's been pretty evident in multiple games that we've seen, just not the true reliability that you need. Lamar's actually looked pretty good in putting balls on the guys right where it needs to be. And I think at the end of the day, you have to consider Detroit as a real player in this NFC. They've been consistent in every game that they've been in. And, you look across the board, this team can win those close games. They've proven it time and time again. This offense is absolutely humming once again, picking up like it did last season, which was super efficient. Jared Goff is the true quarterback of this team. They're utilizing this offense and playing to his strengths, especially out of play action, which they do a great job of. He's one of the better play action quarterbacks in the entire NFL. And that is going to continue here. Now, considering it's Baltimore, Baltimore's been good this year, but I like what Detroit has to offer a little bit more, especially offensively.
Yeah, Baltimore has been good, but I know some people in the comments are going to say, hey, look, Baltimore's at home here. Listen to this. The Ravens are only 1-1 at home this year, haven't had a lot of home games yet, but the Detroit Lions are 3-0 on the road, including that week 1 stunner to open up the season against the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Lions are playing great road football right now, pretty much doing everything you can hope for on the road, and I expect them to move to 4-0 in road games as well after this week. Let's jump into our next matchup now as we look at a game between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Chicago Bears. And this is one of those where you make a pick on this and you're going to feel stupid one way or another probably. I hate picking the Las Vegas Raiders. Last year I did it all year long. I thought that team was going to be way better than they ended up being. McDaniels is on the hot seat, obviously kind of tempered that off a little bit this most recent week. They're now 3-3, but they're still minus 31 in point differential. It's not been an impressive 3-3 in my opinion. Now listen, the Bears haven't been great either. They're 1-5. They're minus a lot in point differential here too. For me, I'm picking them at home, and I think this is going to be a close one possession game that I see the Bears just barely out edging the Raiders in. Again, I don't love the Bears, but I just have kind of a bias against picking the Raiders due to what happened to me last year when Austin, again, no surprise, beat me in pick'em. Austin, why'd you go with the Raiders here, and why should the viewers follow you in this pick?
Yeah, I don't know why I've had a little bit of an odd confidence with the Raiders, and it's not due to them being good. It's just that the opponents that they're playing have been struggling, and that the Chicago Bears are the latest example of this. They can't throw the football. That's just the fact of the matter. DJ Moore is their one reliable target on offense. A lot of people love Cole Kmet, and a lot of people are just in love with what the idea of the offense could have been in the offseason, and now we are quickly realizing that this is just not going to work. I think when you look at the Chicago Bears winning one game in basically the last calendar year, seemingly, I just don't have a lot of confidence lining up and pick them and just smashing that like on it. To me, it's got to be the Raiders here, who have displayed some flashes of what they could be, but at the end of the day, I just barely like them better than the Bears currently.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game. Make sure you guys are dropping your predictions down below as we go through this. Obviously, you guys can let us know your opinions, and we always love seeing your guys' perspective. Let's jump into our next one now as we look at a matchup here between the Cleveland Browns and the Indianapolis Colts in Austin. The Browns defense has been elite. You and I were talking off camera a little bit just about how good they are. They're pretty much the best defense in the NFL, seemingly. Their third down defense is very, very strong, and they just do a really great job with four-man pressure. That's been a huge staple for them. Now listen, they're only 3-2 at this point, but they've only allowed 77 points this year, which is just flat out remarkable. They've been playing good defensive football, and I think that's going to be huge for them here going against Gardner Minshew and the Indianapolis Colts. There's a rumor right now that Anthony Richardson may get shoulder surgery, and he might miss the remainder of the season. So it sounds like it's Gardner Minshew's job, obviously, going forward this year. Kind of struggled this past week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, no surprise there. And I think the Browns take advantage of a kind of weakened Colts offense. What do you see here in this one?
I think when you look at the Cleveland Browns, what you see across the board defensively, this is, like you had said, a team that can get a lot of pressure with four guys, and it's pretty obvious that this is the strength of their team. And I had alluded to it way earlier in the year when we had talked about the Browns as this being a legit defense. The first 2 weeks after I'd watched them, I'm like, this is the real deal. And they've continued that progress moving forward. They just have to have enough offensively. It's pretty tough. I mean, when they had PJ Walker starting, they were not, truly able to generate enough against San Francisco. But one missed kick away, and maybe this is a whole different conversation that we're having. But the fact of the matter is, Moody misses the kick, and now we're looking at Cleveland in a much more positive light. Offensively, there's some issues, and that's been pretty clear and obvious with with Nick Chubb not being available. But I think they're going to have just enough offensively to get the job done because of how stout their defense has been. When you look at the job that Jim Schwartz has done with this defense, it has been magical. Nothing short of that, and I like the Browns in this one.
The Browns, again, only have given up 77 points this season. That is the best mark across the entire NFL up to this point. Very impressive. The next closest team is actually the Chiefs at 88. So just impressive stuff from Cleveland this year on the defensive side. Our next game, we got the Buffalo Bills heading into New England to take on the Patriots. Now listen, a theme of this video is going to be me picking 1-5 teams to win this week. The Patriots weren't one of them for me. This team, I mean, they're just flat out bad. They've been outscored by 80 points this year. They're 1-5, 3-game losing streak. They're 0-3 at home, 1-2 on the road. I mean, this just does not look like a Bill Belichick coached football team. They just don't look anything like the New England Patriots we're used to seeing. And look, the Bills have had moments where they've been elite. They've had moments where they've kind of fallen short. They're 4-2 currently. I expect them to, as the season goes on, continue progressing, continue turning into the team we expect them to be this season. This is going to be a huge stepping stone game for me. The Bills win here handedly. At least a 14-point win is what I'm going to guarantee. Austin, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think the Buffalo Bills are going to actually struggle a little bit in this one, surprisingly. I think Bill Belichick's going to throw a couple of different looks that is going to, throw Josh Allen through a loop. He might actually turn over the ball in this one. However, the talent deficit is going to supersede all of that. Buffalo's going to get the job done. As bad as New England's looked, maybe they have a bounce back offensive game. I just don't see that happening against Buffalo. I think that's kind of wishful thinking if you are a Patriots fan. It's not all bad in New England, but right now there's a lot of things that are actually going wrong. Maybe we see, Ramondre Stevenson have a nice game, but offensively, especially through the air, they're going to struggle mightily against these Buffalo corners.
Yeah, I'd be completely shocked. Maybe this will get put on Twitter. You guys have at it if that happens, if the Patriots come back and win. But I just don't see any way that can actually happen. I'm all in on the Bills this week. And it feels, as a New York Jets fan, it feels really, really good to see the Patriots sitting at 1-5 heading into week 7. Let's jump into our next matchup now. We see a game here between the Washington Commanders and the New York Giants. And I knew we were going to be split on this one. Listen, the Giants had a heartbreaking loss this week. They are 1-5. That's kind of the theme of me picking 1-5 teams this week. I just think, the Commanders, they've had their fair share of issues. Sam Howell's on a record pace of being sacked this season. And I think for the Giants, if they can get home and at least disrupt the passing game for the Commanders a bit, that's going to go a long way in helping their offense get by. The offense has not been good. They've only scored 71 points this year. The defense hasn't been elite either, but I think in this matchup, you can maybe take advantage here of some of the Commanders' shortcomings this season, hopefully force a couple turnovers or sacks, turn them into 3rd and longs and punts on 4th down, hopefully. And I think that's where the Giants potentially win this game. Austin, what did you like about the Commanders here as the Giants have struggled this season?
Yeah, once again, I just going off of the Giants' struggles, and I still can't get that out of my head after what I've seen so far. This is going to be a lot of what I've seen. It's tough to project this one, but I think for the same reasons that you have some confidence in the Giants and sacking Sam Howell, I think the same can be said the other way around. I mean, they just signed Justin Pugh, last week or whatever it was. They had just brought him in, and he started immediately. So that just shows the dire need of the Giants' offensive line. And they've struggled in that department as well. So just a lot of, bad football. The Commanders will flash. It's kind of weird. I mean, if we think back to their huge letdown against the Bears, that was a shocking one. And maybe I'm wrong on the Commanders here, but I think that there is enough explosive pieces on this offense, especially on the perimeter, to be able to potentially break down this Giants defense and, come out with a narrow, probably a 1-score victory.
Yeah, at this point in the season, the Giants have played about one half of really great football, kind of reminiscent to what they did a year ago. So I'm kind of going out on a limb here with the Giants pick. We'll see what happens. Of course, Daniel Jones is dealing with a little bit of neck and shoulder injury himself. So there's a lot to kind of go into this pick, but, I'm taking the risk here on it. As we jump into our next game, I just want to urge you guys, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. You guys are the center of utility sports. You guys are so important in what we do here. We really appreciate all of your guys' support and also your comments. So Austin, we got the Falcons here and the Buccaneers in what is an NFC South showdown, and a really important one. The Buccaneers come in at 3-2, of course, did lose this most recent week. Baker Mayfield took a lot of the blame for that one. The offense just didn't really get going, and the Falcons, they themselves lost. They're right around 500, where we would expect an Arthur Smith team to be at this point of the year at 3-3. You know, the Buccaneers started off hot. They've kind of been up and down a little bit since, and the Falcons, they're just kind of around where we'd expect them to be. I went with the Bucs here at home. I think home field advantage is always a very important thing in division. And I think that this is kind of a matchup where the linebackers for Tampa Bay are going to have to be huge, limiting the run game for Atlanta, trying to slow down Kyle Pitts, who actually did get in the end zone this most recent week, or actually 2 weeks ago, and then also had a couple big plays this most recent week. You're looking at, you know, kind of a big challenge for them, I think, and I think they're going to be able to answer the bell there and get the job done. Austin, what do you like about Tampa here?
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay is going to have an opportunity to run the football. And Atlanta, once again, just can't get after the quarterback. And the formula to beating Tampa Bay is putting a lot of pressure in Baker Mayfield's face and forcing turnovers. That is really the MO. If you give Baker time, he is going to actually probably have an effective game. And that's why we've seen them be as successful as they have, because they've been able to protect Baker Mayfield sufficiently. Now, Atlanta offers little to no pass rush, and this has been a theme now for ongoing of 4 or 5 years. But I think Tampa Bay should be able to win this game. Once again, they have the playmakers on the perimeter to get the job done, and I like their defense. They have guys to go ahead and make the opportunistic plays to, potentially change the course of the game.
A very pivotal matchup this week. Again, the NFC South is super tight right now between the Buccaneers, Falcons, and Saints. So this is a huge game that could go a long way in ultimately deciding who wins that division this season. Jumping into our very next matchup, we've got the game here between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Los Angeles Rams. And listen, the Steelers have a long way to travel. You're going from up in the Northeast all the way down to the Southwest in Los Angeles. That obviously bodes well for the Rams' chances here in this one. And I think the Rams are just a much better team than people were expecting this year. Now, listen, they're only 500 at 3-3, but they have outscored their opponents by 21 points. They won their most recent game as well. So you're looking at a team that I think, offensively, they're starting to kind of look a little bit more like they did a couple of years ago when they won the Super Bowl. Not quite to that extent, obviously, but much better than last year, which is what we, highlighted to start the year this season, Austin. How much of that impacts this game against the Steelers? And then also, the Steelers just haven't, they haven't been great. The offense has struggled at times. What's your thoughts really on this game?
And I think it's been, not noted enough on the struggles of the Pittsburgh Steelers, because we have not seen these Mike Tomlin-led teams be so uncompetitive on offense. Last year was not good, but this year is once again a disaster. Trying to run the football, they can't. They tried to address that offensive line in the draft. That was unsuccessful. They used first-round draft pick capital to do so. It just hasn't panned out to how they thought it was going to. Kenny Pickett, I think that some people are realizing some of the shortcomings he's going to have as an NFL quarterback, and some of my concerns that I had about him going into the draft, and they remain true. Now, I look at the Los Angeles Rams at this point. They have a good aerial attack. Matt Stafford, paired up with the 2-star receivers, are boding well to become a really competent offense. Kyron Williams has been a nice surprise for all of us. I think they're able to get the job done at home. Pittsburgh has not shown me enough to, have that true vote of confidence. Like they're going to take care of business on the road, and I think it's going to be another struggle, game for them.
This time tomorrow, I'm probably going to be reading a comment in the Discord from Sports Junkie saying how much we hate the Steelers and how we're sleeping on his favorite team. But that's just a reminder to you guys to make sure you join the Discord. Link is in the description for that. Talk some NFL football and just have a really great time getting to know some of the other, people who watch the channel, and a really good tight-knit community. Let's jump into our next game as we see a matchup here between the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm actually going with the Cardinals here on the road. Like I said to open this video, here's the theme of picking the 1-5 teams. I've gone with a bunch of them this week, and the Cardinals are just another one. And I see them going into this game as kind of that sleeper underdog, and the Seahawks have been a little prone to that this year in a couple of their losses, maybe overlooking a team or just falling a little bit short to a team that we expected them to beat that week. And I think the Cardinals, listen, they haven't been very good, and we knew coming into the season that was going to be the case. But very rarely do you have a team only win one game throughout the season. So you're looking for some options throughout the year of potential upset games, or, you know, a situation where a team overlooks them and then they can kind of come back and get them by surprise. They did that against Dallas. I think they could potentially do that here against Seattle. Obviously, DK Metcalf, there's been a lot of emotions lately with him and how he's been kind of interacting with corners. I think this is a kind of a trap game here, and something I could see Arizona taking advantage of. In this one, Austin, you went with Seattle. I think probably the safer pick. If I was actually putting real money down on this, I'd have to think a little bit harder. But for our pick and video here, I did like the Cardinals. Why'd you go with Seattle?
I think anytime that you have to go and play in Seattle, regardless of situation and how the roster looks, one of the toughest places to play just in general, getting the play calls in and, you know, being able to make, you know, audibles at the line and making your checks at the line of scrimmage, everything becomes amplified and more difficult on the road, especially for an Arizona team that is rather inexperienced, has a lot of young guys. To me, I just don't think that's a formula for boding well. The Seattle Seahawks are going to have to run the football effectively, and I think, you know, Geno Smith's going to have to do a good job protecting that ball. Arizona's been competitive this year. I think a lot better than people had expected, including both of us at Utility Sports Plus. But at the end of the day, I think that the Seattle Seahawks are much more equipped for this game. They're at home. A lot of things are playing in their favor, in my opinion.
Definitely will be a fun one to watch this week. And let's jump into our next one as we look at a game here between the Green Bay Packers and the Denver Broncos. Austin, you went with the Packers, and you guys know it, another 1-5 team. Guess who I picked? The Denver Broncos. Now, listen, I do have one thing to say here about Jordan Love. A lot of people have been really, really low on him, especially the last couple of weeks. I know the Packers, they're on a 2-game losing streak right now. There's been moments where Jordan Love flashes. There's been moments where he doesn't look great. I just want to remind you, Aaron Rodgers' first season as a full-time starter wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There's ups and downs. The team struggled a bit his first year as a starter. That's kind of par for the course when you're introducing a guy to being a starting quarterback in the NFL. Not everyone's Patrick Mahomes, where they're going to step in, be an NFL MVP level player, win a Super Bowl, do those kinds of things early on in their career. So Jordan Love, I still think there's a lot to work with there. I think he is the franchise quarterback for the Packers. But for me in this game, listen, the Broncos have not been good. They really struggled against Kansas City. They're actually 0-3 at home, but I do still think Mile High gives them a bit of an advantage here against a team that, yes, they've been struggling too. The Packers have not won for a couple of weeks, and I think this game is hopefully a monumental win for Sean Payton. Dropping to 1-6 is going to be a really, really bad look if that is what happens here. So for me, I am going to put a little bit of faith in the Broncos. I probably will regret this on Sunday afternoon, but that's just where I feel currently. I kind of like this for them. And I think that, you know, maybe they got the roster before the game even. But I just think that with some of the pieces that they have at home, it could give them a slight edge over, you know, a pretty young team on the other side in Green Bay that hasn't been clicking. Austin, what do you like about Green Bay?
Yeah, it's, you know, I don't absolutely love Green Bay in this one, but at the end of the day, I look at it from the perspective of Denver being so atrocious in a lot of facets of the game. You know, their defense has not been good. Their offense has struggled mightily. There's some real concerns about what's happening in Denver, and I think we could see a true teardown at the trade deadline for them. Guys like Jerry Jeudy are going to be on the block, Cortland Sutton as well. But Green Bay here has to go in there. They got to remain composed. Matt LaFleur has won a lot of games as a head coach in this league, and he's having to, you know, really overcome some of the difficulties of changing at the quarterback position, going from a Hall of Famer to a very young and inexperienced quarterback. But I think when I'm looking at the two rosters on paper, I think Green Bay is just a better team. I think that they're going to have established a little bit more of a flow offensively. Denver's just been super clunky this year. I mean, it's just not been good. It's been actually embarrassing. But to me, I have my reservations about this team, and I think the Green Bay Packers are just a slightly better and more composed team, and they just haven't had as big a hiccups as Denver has.
Yeah, I think Denver's have been very glaring. Of course, Thursday Night Football was not pretty for them this past week. Let's jump into our next game as we look at a matchup here now between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. And this just feels like a good old classic AFC West showdown. Now, listen, the Chargers come off of a very tough loss. Monday Night Football, they lose by 3 to the Dallas Cowboys. Austin called it last week, of course. I picked the Chargers. No surprise there that Austin ended up pulling out that win there. But we actually both land on the Chiefs, who have been playing just fantastic football after the opener. Since that initial loss to Detroit, they're now 5-0 in that time span, and they have just been throttling teams. They're a plus 59 on the year in terms of point differential. The Chargers here, 2-3 currently. They are a positive plus point differential as well, but only at a +3. I just think, the Chargers, they usually play competitive with Kansas City. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. The matchups are actually typically very, very good between these two teams, but I just think the Chiefs are just a better team, and that shouldn't be a surprise. The Chiefs are one of the best teams in the NFL. They've got a home field advantage here at Arrowhead. Just feels like a really safe pick for me, and I would even label it as my lock of the week. Austin, what's your thoughts on this matchup?
I think the Chargers are actually going to give Kansas City a little bit of fits through the air, and that's been the case for Justin Herbert throughout the course of his entire career. He lights up teams, but it's just I feel like sometimes the Chargers and the players around him let him down significantly. But anytime that you have Justin Herbert against Patrick Mahomes, it's probably going to be a high-scoring affair. Kansas City's defense, as you alluded to earlier, has been terrific this year. They've been disrupting the passer, and I think a big reason why, once again, has been the mainstay of Chris Jones. And his absence was super detrimental to them, but him coming back in such a positive way and just absolutely being a true disruptor and one of the best defensive players in the entire NFL has really made a true difference for this defense. That's why they're going to continue to be a top 5 defense probably the rest of the way.
Yeah, he'll be great in this one, I'm sure. But Justin Herbert, remember, he actually made his NFL debut against the Kansas City Chiefs after Tyrod Taylor got poked in the lung by a doctor. Well, listen, kind of the start of his career was phenomenal against Kansas City, and I think he's going to look to continue that here as well. Again, going to be a really great matchup, perhaps one of the games of the week. Let's jump into our next one now. We look at a matchup here between the Miami Dolphins and the Philadelphia Eagles, a fun one on Sunday night. And the NFL couldn't have picked a better game, honestly, in my opinion. The Dolphins are 5-1 at this point, as are the Eagles, who did get knocked off this past week in pretty surprising fashion. Probably a big letdown for the Eagles. And Austin, we've talked about this in past pick'ems of, listen, the Eagles are really good. They're winning a lot of games. They're very, very talented. But we had kind of pointed to, look, with the new changing of the coordinators, this team just hadn't felt like it's been playing its best brand of football. I'm expecting to see that now after a big letdown loss in a game they probably internally thought they would win. I think that's going to be a real wake-up call for them here, and I think we're going to see the best version of the Philadelphia Eagles coming in. Now, listen, I love the Dolphins. The Dolphins have been such a dynamic, electric offense this year. They put up over 220 points this season already. They've been really dominant, especially offensively, but I think the Eagles here, they have some advantages, especially when it comes to power. Line of scrimmage play, I think, is going to be huge here, and I think the Eagles are going to dominate that one. Austin, how big is trench play in this game?
Yeah, and that was going to be my number one thing, and I bring it up almost weekly with the Philadelphia Eagles and their ability to dominate trench play. Philadelphia Eagles, it's tough to go into Philly alone just with the atmosphere and the environment for opposing fans and players. It's a tough one to play in, and I think the Miami Dolphins on a Sunday night game, sitting here in October, it's going to be tough. It's probably going to be chilly. This is meant for fall football, and that's exactly what the Philadelphia Eagles embody as a team, is true toughness and grit. Miami's a little bit flashier, more fun, more dynamic and exciting. And I just think when you look at the Miami Dolphins, they're going to be looking for that big play. Now, what the Philadelphia Eagles do a great job of is limiting that, because they put a tremendous amount of pressure on the quarterback even when they just rush 4. Once again, I think that's going to be actually a tightly contested game, because we saw early last week, Miami ends up going down 14-0 against Carolina, and then they ended up blowing them out and shutting them out the rest of the way. So Miami is explosive. They're fun. They're sexy. But to me, I like Philadelphia still in this one.
It's going to be a really great game. Looking at some of the other stats, Miami's actually top 5 in the NFL in sacks per game as well. So they're no slouches either, but they have a tough matchup here against the Eagles, who historically have had a great offensive line in recent memory. It's just going to be a really great game. Couldn't have asked for a better Sunday night football matchup this week. And that leads us into Monday Night Football. And I would love to say that this is a more exciting matchup, but it just quite frankly isn't. The 49ers head into Minnesota, US Bank Stadium, and dominate the game. That's how this is going to go. The San Francisco 49ers, obviously a disappointing loss. People are going to say, oh, Brock Purdy, when he actually has to carry the team, look, this, that, and the other. Here's the thing. I think that, there's a lot of slander around Brock Purdy. I wouldn't necessarily call him, say, a franchise quarterback or a guy I would look to, full on build around. But the reality is the guy's so good at winning football games. And part of that is the talent around him. But I think here in a game against Minnesota, first of all, the Niners are way more talented. No Justin Jefferson here. They're going to win the football game. But I think Brock Purdy is actually very underrated. People act like any quarterback can just step in and win. I mean, we've seen that a bit with San Francisco under, guys like Jimmy G and so on. But I don't think Sam Darnold gives them the same chance at winning that Brock Purdy's given them this year, and kind of stretching into what we saw last year as well. Austin, what's your kind of thoughts on Brock Purdy as a quarterback, as an individual talent, and how important is getting right back on track here for San Francisco this week?
I think it's a great point that you made, that any quarterback just couldn't step in and do what he's done to this point. If that were the case, they would have taken Trey Lance and made him the franchise quarterback. They would have given him the reins because they had invested so much draft capital to move up and go get him. So that is the point, and they were willing to move off of a guy that they gave up multiple firsts to move up, and it was a very critical move. And at the end of the day, Brock Purdy was just a better quarterback. He's the best for the scheme. He's the best for Kyle Shanahan and what he's looking to implement with his offense. He's accurate. He's on time. He's a good leader of the locker room. Even though he's a young quarterback, he has proven time and time again that he has ice in his veins and makes some big time throws when need be. This is going to be an uncompetitive football game, in my opinion. I think that this could be as much as a 3-score game. Now, some people are going to say, hold on a second, that's pretty lofty to expect that Minnesota's going to crumble here. I can't wait to watch Ed Ingram try to be competitive at all against the San Francisco front. He's going to step on Kirk Cousins at least 3 times in this one. I wish I weren't this low on this game for the Vikings, even with them being at home. It's a Kirk Cousins primetime game, and San Fran's going to just bring it. So watch out. This is going to get ugly quick.
If you're looking for some positives for Minnesota, they come into this game 2-4. They're not dead in the water yet. The Packers haven't been playing great. Of course, the Bears haven't either. The Lions have surmounted a pretty good lead. But looking at the rest of the NFC, I mean, there is a little bit of opportunity here for Minnesota if they go on a winning streak. Now, again, we don't really see that happening. We've talked this year about how this is kind of the inverse of last season. The team, they're only a -6 point differential this year, but they've lost a lot of close games. And that when you're in a bunch of close games, you're going to have some of that variance year in, year out of, do we win some of them? Do we lose some of them? And this year it's been mostly losing them. But Austin, I am in agreement with you here. The 49ers, it's just a different kind of beast. And I think the Vikings, the one thing that the Vikings have done this year too is kind of close games well to make it look like it was closer than it was. They did that against Philadelphia, did that against Kansas City to a certain extent. I just think that the Vikings are a worse team. They're probably going to trail wire to wire or something like that in this game. And I think the 49ers win comfortably. Hopefully you guys did enjoy our pick'em this week. Had a lot of fun recording for NFL Week 7. If you are new to the channel or you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do so now. Hit that subscribe button. It's completely free to you, helps us out a lot, lets us know we're making good videos and good content. Again, if you have questions about against the spread or any of our picks or our reasoning, feel free to drop a comment down below. Austin reads every single comment. Let him know what's on your mind. Thanks again so much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.